Paul Henry, the sports writer at the Elk Valley Times, I'm introducing a dear friend. And Don Counts had invited him to come and speak, and I don't know if Paul would have done it for him, but somehow Don worked his magic, and I'm glad he did. But bear with me a little bit, because you know, when it comes to sports, I really do feel like Paul Henry has Fayetteville and Lincoln County covered. He calls himself a shade tree photographer, but he is anything but that. He's an excellent photographer and a great writer, and I have the utmost respect for him. And I tell you, the Elk Valley Times is extremely lucky to have him on staff. He is the son of Bob and Martha Henry. He was just a kid when the family moved here in 1958 from Kentucky. So his blood does run a little blue, but fortunately it runs orange too, so that's a good thing. He has worked in the construction business, and I mean, like, I think the major part of his career was spent in construction, building major projects, big hospitals and all kinds of things like that. He's worked in the import business too, bringing things from China, importing things in from China. But along the way, he's had that opportunity to take a lot of really cool photos. So I don't know if he'll talk about that a little bit today, but I get him to talk about those things occasionally, so I can hear what all he's taking pictures of and where his photos have gone. It's pretty neat. But in 1999, he moved back to Fayetteville to be close to his parents and his sister. And that's how I got to know Paul. His sister, Brenda Henry Hamilton, was one of my dearest friends, and I loved her immensely. She passed away in 2003. Paul also has two children, a daughter named Jennifer and a son named Zachary. While his work is evident, probably most evident on the Elk Valley Times sports pages every week, it's also very evident on the front page. When I know I'm going to have a photo from Paul, if I've asked him to go take a picture of a construction project or something, this, that, or the other, I always know I've got my front page picture, because he just goes above and beyond. And let me tell you, he puts his heart and soul in his job when it comes to covering sports and going to all the games that he goes to and everything. He's not doing it for the money. He's doing it because he does love the kids, and he enjoys covering them and giving them some recognition for what they do. So Paul, yeah, I'm thankful to be able to introduce you. You're a dear friend. Thank you.
Give me a hug. Well, you should have stayed up here and just kept talking. You were doing great. I appreciate everything, and Lucy's kind words. I have to say they were probably scraping the bottom of the barrel looking for somebody to come and talk, because I definitely know my place in life, and it's back here in the back somewhere and away from these things. You know, I have a microphone thing going on, but anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to come here and talk to y'all for a while. Now, I've made myself some notes, so bear with me. I have to have my notes, because I'll become a rambling photographer and we'll end up in Oregon before we get out of here. A couple of things I want to touch bases on today, and it's not just strictly around photography. It ties together, but I want to talk a little bit about media outlets and media too, and then touch some on sports, okay? There's no doubt technology, if you're above ground today, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, technology has impacted your life, and it's a whole lot different than what I was at Central High School in 1973. You know, and it's not just you, it has your entire life. It's your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, kind of whatever you got going on there, you know. I feel like it's going to be as much of an impact, and unfortunately in some very negative ways, but fortunately in some very positive ways, as the industrial age. When they started ginning cotton and things like that, you think now this whole wide world that we know is really small, and it is connected. You know, I can go on music sites. I like to take music pictures, and I'll post stuff. It's amazing throughout the world where people end up commenting about photographs and this type of thing. We are a very connected bunch, you know, whether you like it or not. I'll give you an example. Blew out Achilles tendon way too many months ago. Been a real pain to get it to heal. It happens. Compression socks helps with the swelling. So what I do, I Google compression socks. And it didn't take 45 minutes to everything I went to. Facebook had deals on compression socks because they are watching. They know what you're doing, when you're doing it, how you're doing it. If you got one of these, they know where you are. I'm telling you. But the working of the system has all grown and developed that way. I cannot imagine doing what I do today if I refused to carry a telephone. That would allow me to text and tweet and get calls and those type things. You know, I thought I was real portable when I had an old Nokia bag phone that you could sync a trot line with that weighed about 12 pounds. You know, you were hooked up back in those days. But now that is so, you know, so out of date that it's, I had no idea as a kid growing up here in Fayetteville, Tennessee, where 2016 would be and the connection in the world. It's just, if I'd had that vision, you know, I'd probably been a Bill Gates or something like that. But to make a point, even Bill Gates, he had no idea. He made the statement that no home computer needed any more than 30 gigabytes on it. That was enough storage space for anybody. Well, a phone's got more than 30 gigabytes now. I mean, nobody knew how big this thing was going to get, and I feel like they still don't know how big it is going to get. You know? So, hard copies of printed documents. She knows what I'm talking about. Just like vinyl records went to 8 tracks, went to cassette tapes, now they're in CDs. There's an evolution of things. And printed hard copy documents are going to be part of that evolution, or else you're going to have a very small, you know, there's still some white noise guys that love to listen to vinyl. And they'll drive to wherever they, look at her, hold her hand up. They'll go wherever to hear that crack and pop of vinyl, and that's good. But if you got to make a living dealing with it, it's a different case, you know, it's a different case scenario, you know. You look at, and I'm not knocking them by any means, it's just the nature of things. Huntsville, Alabama, huge town, tech town. Average income probably very high for the South, and I'm sure it's very high for Alabama. Ha ha. But, I lost my train of thought here. I went to Oregon. Huntsville, thank you. The Huntsville Times, down to 3 days a week with a hard copy newspaper. You know, and you're talking about a great big happening event type thing. But it's an evolution. Newspapers are not going to go away. And by the way, this is National Newspaper Week. Lucy should be the one up here talking this to y'all instead of me. She's the newspaper guru. But newspapers aren't going to go away. They're not going to die. But the way you receive that information is evolving. Now, lucky for a lot of us in this room, small town papers will be way down the totem pole as far as no longer hard copies printed. For the sake they are the only news source for that area. You know, we're basically the newspaper for Fayetteville and Lincoln County, Tennessee. You know, and you can go online though, and this is something that I'm glad to see Lakeway doing. I think Lucy told me their circulation's remaining about the same. It's staying up and steady. Yeah, the Elk Valley Times, which is great in this day and age for a small town paper when you got Chicago Sun-Times laying off their entire photography staff 5 years ago. Huge deal, huge deal. But the small town papers are hanging in there, even on the hard copies perspective. Now I like to have my cup of coffee and look at sports page in the morning. My kids don't. And they're going to be here longer than I am. I hope, I definitely, one of my wishes as a father, but eventually the demand for any type of printed document is going to be just a rarity. Be it a magazine, I don't think we get near the junk mail in the mail. Of course, people don't mail anything anymore. It's kind of like handwritten note. A handwritten note, if somebody sends you a handwritten note, have that sucker framed and put it on the wall, because you may never get another one. Now, you'll get texts and emails and thank yous and these little cutesy Facebook heart-generated cards and all this kind of stuff. But a handwritten note is just, basically a thing of the past. But the Elk Valley Times is evolving with it. The amount of traffic that the paper gets off these things, PCs, online's edition, is really growing really, really, really well. I don't know the percentages or the numbers. She could tell you a whole heck of a lot more about it, other than, I just know it's there, and it's the evolution of what's going to happen. There are some things that are inevitable. That's probably one of them. And if you're going to survive it, you got to go with the flow. But newspapers will still exist. There will be an Elk Valley Times, unless they're bought and changed names or something like that. Well, we're a 150-year-old business. 150 years, that's wild. And if there's anybody around in 150 years from now, there will probably be a local paper, even in small towns like this. Let's see. All right. Let me grab a camera. I'm just going to talk a little bit about some technology here. I'm not trying to bore y'all to death, I promise. But this camera strongly resembles an old SLR that I used to put 36 exposure film in the back time and time and time again. But other than that, there are absolutely no similarities. I say all the time, y'all remember MacGyver, the guy that could take a baked potato or take a potato and make something out of it? He could take one of these cameras and fly the space shuttle with it. It's phenomenal. From my perspective, it's definitely a win-win situation, because these cameras allow me to do things that just where it's not possible having to shoot film. If you're in a low light situation and you got a kid running down the field, going up to catch a pass, if you're in a real low light situation, you're not going to stop that action. These type of cameras allow you to do that, okay? So I'm thankful for it, but at the same time, there was a time I was actually kind of bitter about it, to be honest with you. I learned to shoot film in the 70s. I didn't put a memory card in there. Learned to shoot film in the 70s. And I actually did a little research here. All right. The first photograph that was ever taken and exposed was in 1826. And of course, it had to be by a Frenchman. It was put on paper. Okay. It's simple. But it happened that long ago. That's the point I'm trying to make. 1900, they'd made the evolution to paper. And then in 1935, Kodak came out with what was called Kodachrome. It was the color mamma jamma when it came to taking a picture. It remained the mamma jamma in color positive and negatives right till the bitter end. But with the invention of this camera, came the invention of this. A compact flash card. Ooh, ah. It's a little sucker. It's a remarkable device where I would have to load 36 exposure film into a camera time and time again to shoot something. Really, it boils down to I didn't take but a fraction of the number of pictures. You got one of these suckers, you throw a lot of rocks at the can, and you'll eventually hit it. That's basically the way my photographs come about. But these things, I can put about, this is a 16 gig card, high resolution. I can put about 1,500 pictures on it and feel comfortable that I'll be able to download them, get them off. Load it on my computer, boom. Once I know they're there, I'll put the card back in my camera, hit the delete button, and it's cleaned and ready to go again. Whole lot cheaper than film, needless to say, and much more available. But what these suckers did, I say suckers, compact fast cards, put Eastman Kodak out of business. A huge, I don't know if you've ever been to Kingsport, Tennessee, where one of their, it was like the town was Eastman Kodak. Okay, now I told you they started in 1935. 2009, they discontinued and processed the last roll of Kodachrome in December of 2010. It's gone. If you're looking for color film or for film to process now, you're going online, you're buying it from a specialty place, and you're paying a premium for it. There's still the old die-hard guys where, I mean, that's what they're going to do. They're going to shoot film. With what I do personally, my own photography and what I do for the paper, it's just not a feasible thing. We used to go to a ball game on Friday night, shoot about 3 rows of film up, run it to the 1 hour processing place here in town and get it run Saturday morning, so we had it ready to go that week. It was an ordeal. With this, I go home and download it, edit it, pull out what I want to pull, send what I want to get ready to send, write a story, and all of that happens from my little PC at my house. I put it in a file transfer program and send it to Miss Lucy Cotter Williams. So the evolution of it, it just still boggles my mind to even comprehend where we are now. And believe me, I'm no high-tech redneck by any means. There's guys out there that are gurus with these cameras. I am a shade tree photographer. I basically, well, that shot looks good, this one don't. But you try to learn from your mistakes, what makes a decent shot. You know, you end up with 3 different types of photographs. You got A shot, B shot, and the best shot. A shot's what you need when you got 11 minutes to get something pulled together and you gotta send it off. Unless you're just really in tune with everything. The shot, maybe a guy over on the other side of the moon on the field, it looks like, but he's stretching out making a catch, but it's still, everything's happening away from you. And the best shot is that one where the Heisman Trophy pose as he's diving over the end zone, you know. One of the things I kind of struggle with, being a small town paper and having sat next to parents and grandparents every time I go to a restaurant somewhere, I try to get as many different kids during the course of a season, particularly the seniors, in the paper at some point in time. Now, there's no way I can sit here and say I get them all in. But that does, at times, put me in a situation, well, I've got this real good shot of so-and-so over here, making this great play, but this will be like the 4th time this year that I've used him so I will at times, if I've got a good shot, go that route instead. You know, if I was a traveling photographer hitting a different school every Friday night, it'd be a different situation. I could take that best one then, you know, another Friday night, do another one. But when you're dealing with the same kids, wearing the same jerseys, same numbers, on the same basketball courts, you know, it's all, that's something I'm concerned about, and I do like to try to do. Because Lucy was right with one thing that she did say. Well, she was right with a lot. I am pretty good. But But it's about the kids. You know, I have to remind myself when I'm going, Lions Club tip-off tournament several years ago, halftime in the girls' championship game, the score was 8-1. You know, and I have to tell myself, okay, this is, at this moment, this is those kids' biggest time of their life. You know, when they run through the Falcon sign down there, at that time, that's the biggest moment. So keeping it in that perspective helps me keep kind of the, I hate to say the stupidity of it, but at times it really is, out of it and focused on what was the important thing. You know, and that is the kids. You know, that's just why, a lot of why I do what I do the way I do it, and I wish I could just say it a little better sometimes. Let me look to my notes, see where I get caught up here. I get to rambling. All right, it's picture time. What I did, and this was again tough to do. I was like, it was just tough to do. Because I will shoot between all the schools, the dog and pony shows, National Potato Days, and everything else we have in this town. I'll shoot 80,000 pictures a year. That's not uncommon. My hard drive at home knows how much I push it to the limit downloading stuff, you know. And it's hard to say, okay, I got a few minutes here to talk, to narrow it down. So with the pictures that I've chosen, I'm not, just if you think of, well, you should have had a picture of that in there. Well, I get that a lot, but just understand, I was just trying, under kind of a quick circumstance, pull a few shots together and put something together. We had a few images to look at, because I am an image conscious purchase. Lucille, when I first started working at the paper, I was just shooting part-time some when Jeff was there, and I hated punctuation. Why do you have to put a question mark at the end of a sentence, where's the cat? You've done asked the question, you know? I was a ... between each phrase kind of guy, and she and Sandy and Lucy says, boy, we can't ever let him write any stories, that's for sure. All right. This is what happens when you eat too many slaw burgers. Jeremy, he's a wrestler kind of guy, and this is part of his show he does in the ring, blowing his big ball of fire before they get out eating at the Slaw Burger Festival. But the one reason too I wanted to load this concerning Straw Burger Festival, it's something that makes us kind of unique to Lincoln County, you know? And pulling out those little uniqueness, if that's the right word, that we do have, that to me, that just is good. It's a good draw. It's a good everything. It kind of makes it us, you know, if that makes any sense to you. All right, see what's up next. Okay. How many times have y'all heard him say, here they come? Well, this Lincoln County Fair, harness racing, it's a good thing. It's something, again, that makes us unique. There's nowhere else in the state of Tennessee that's got this going on. And there's just so much character involved with it, from the people that are in it, the animals that are in it, and of course shooting action. You know, when I can stop something like this and the poor horse's tongue's hanging out of his mouth slobbering like crazy because he's tired, that's all part of putting the shot together. Go ahead and click this on. There you go. Y'all recognize them britches?
They were dragging.
They were dragging. That was about day one of the fair, Don.
No.
Well, I wanted to go on and put that shot in there. From a positive standpoint of social media. Simple shot, walking down, holding kids with a grandbaby, or holding hands with a grandbaby. It was amazing the amount of attention that got on social media about just, it's a cool shot. Nothing flashy, nothing fancy, that type thing. But it still says a whole lot, I guess, is what I'm saying. All right, this is the last one from the fair. Just a few more snides coming around the corner there. Okay. All right. Well, as most of y'all know, I drive around in a Jeep, and every now and then I get to put it in four-wheel drive when it snows. I'm not a mudding guy or anything like that, but I'll load lenses and everything in the Jeep, put it in granny, and start driving the back roads. And this is like that bass fisherman catching that 10-pounder. It's the big score. When I got deer like that in a snow scene setting, and they're looking like, hey, you're taking our picture. I have scored. It has been worth however many hours I spent riding in the road. So, all right. Another road shot. Riding around. This was between Fayetteville Highway and Mimosa. Snowy. And I was driving out there and I said, man, I cannot believe this. There's turkeys crossing the road just to get to the other side. And this was probably February. And that old gobbler's already doing his stuff. I had snowflakes falling. So much on taking pictures is just absolute luck and being in the right place at the right time. Now, if you're going to take a picture of a pretty sunrise, you better scout it the day ahead to know where the sun rises and everything else, and then be out there before it comes up if you're going to get a good shot. You're not going to get a sunrise picture. You just have to do it, So, all right. This is one of my little favorite shots. Some reason, every now and then I'll title a picture, and I call this patiently waiting for spring. That little bluebird was freezing its tail off in the snow on that old white fence post. Now that's another Mimosa road shot there too. So I guess by living out there off Old Mulberry Road, I kind of migrate that way or head up Chestnut Ridge, one of the two. All right. Okay. That's probably been the most widely viewed photograph I've ever taken. We put it on the EVT Facebook page, and I don't remember the kind of response it got to it, but it got a lot. Even people from Australia, I guess they had lived here at one time or something. It hooked them back up with Lincoln County. Now what makes it, and I love snowfall when it's quiet and still. Now, of course, I had some kids with trucks on the other side of the square roaring it up every now and then, but for a few seconds, I would have just this quiet, peaceful snow. And it put such a blanket on the sound, it's unreal. And then every twig, no wind blowing at all, every twig was painted with about a ½ to an inch of snow on it. And that just made, the shot what it is. Kind of the only way I know to put it.
Paul, tell why the light is like it is behind the courthouse. You didn't enhance that.
No, this from the original shot. This is all light that's bleeding up from the other side of the square, coming up that way.
Was it still snowing?
Yeah, it was spitting snow some, and you can't see it here, but when you look at it on a hard large copy, there's actually a few snowflake streaks in it. That we decided to leave in when we had it printed. But this was a gratifying, even if nobody had ever seen it, for me personally, by not having a life and just taking pictures, this was a gratifying shot for me. It was kind of like, right there at that moment, it's a long exposure. I was on a tripod, lens was open, or shutter was open a long time, and at the time it would click and I was like, I'm digging this. And I'm just standing there pushing a button, But I knew at that time I got my money's worth out of this shot if nobody even ever saw it, just for being able to take it. But that's kind of the way I look at taking pictures. Go ahead. Button pusher. Okay, supermoon. This was supermoon. No, that isn't it. What year was that? Oh, supermoon in the courthouse was taken on June 21st, 2013. Now that's another interesting thing about this. When it stores a photograph, it tells me when I took it, when I go into the information on it. They've even got them that would give me the longitude and latitude. If I was in the Arizona desert and took a picture of a flower, the higher end cameras now actually have that type of detailed memory storage. So believe me, they're always watching. They know where you are. But supermoon 2013, it was a planned deal. I knew the moon was coming, supposed to be a huge supermoon. And I got down there on the corner of the square over by Jonathan Brown's law office, shooting back that way. Because, I mean, the moon moves where it's going to move, and that was the best way to get an alignment on the thing. But that was a planned one. That wasn't just an accident type shot. Another thing to me that makes us unique, and that's the cross out at Kelso. This was at Christmas time. I think I'd been the host of Christmas Past and felt like I didn't take enough pictures, and I decided to go to Kelso in the evening and take another shot. That's how all of this came about. It's kind of cool. There's actually a star streak when you look at it online that's blowing through the thing, and there's some little stars, and it was a long enough exposure that the stars have got just a little drag in it from the rotation of the Earth. So, but that's something that I consider makes this kind of unique. When I can post that online, and kids that have gone away to college and that type of thing will say something about the Kelso shot. So, okay. Now's the change. Of course, not all news is good news. This was taken Tuesday morning in April 2014 after the tornadoes came through. You got everybody's attention. Kind of realize how insignificant we can be. But just the sky's ugly. I'm sorry. But the composition of it, with the mail still being in the box, the bus laying over the side of the building, and the roof gone and all, it just, I don't know, it says a whole lot to me. And something that I have to tell you, at that time, I was like, well, go get the bulldozers, put this sucker down, we got to build a new school. Didn't have to happen. School was about 2 weeks late starting of what was originally planned. By this damage, they came in, worked 24/7, these hotshot construction guys that works for insurance companies and stuff. And that school building opened that year. And I would have lost money on that one, I'm telling you, because it was so substantial, you know. Go ahead. Sad shot. This is kind of like right across from the school. This was taken along, this is about probably a between 200 and 300 yard photograph. I mean, this house was not destroyed by a bulldozer and pushed up in a pile. This is the way it was left. And this guy's out there looking, going through things, you know. I guess I can't imagine being put in that situation, or life put me in that situation. But it happens. Go ahead. All right, the X on the house, that marks the spot, but what that basically tells you is that law enforcement and rescue people have gone through that house and there's nobody trapped inside. Everybody's been accounted for. Then you throw the flags in there like that, it just made for a real interesting shot. And it's funny. Of course, I was out there several days shooting this thing, and you almost get like, you just want to go home and brush your teeth and eat a salad. It's just like, oh man, you want to turn it off some way, you know? But you know, these people that are out here living this at that particular moment, they don't get to turn it off. Not at all. This event made me proud of Lincoln County for the way it recovered, the way we came together. It was phenomenal. You think of what they did at South Lincoln School, FPU, the power company, working unbelievable. Because I went around and took some pictures of FPU. Sorry I ain't got a shot of them, Doc. But, I mean, it took a joint effort by a whole lot of folks. And a lot of them were high school kids. There was unloading water and food down there at the high school for these people that lost everything they had. And that, I mean, it just kind of, I hate to have something, a catastrophe like that. And of course, we did have a loss of life that night too. But if you ever drove at that particular week the path that those storms came through and saw the extent of the damage, you'd be like, man, I can't believe more people did not die in this. And that's an awful way to put it. But at the same time, it hits you that way. The magnitude of the damage and those type things were that great, you know. So I basically look at community like Fayetteville as being a phoenix that's born out of fire, and that leads to the next shot. That's fire. That's the old hide home out on the Shovel Highway. And it was hot. It was a real hot fire. Of course, I grew up with the Hydes. Celia, we were same age, graduated school together, that type thing. And it was sad to watch that happen. But, of course, I have a lot of respect for these guys right here. Now, these are volunteer firemen, right, Don? They're volunteer firemen. They're choosing to be there to do whatever they can on their own accord. And just the fact of knowing that people are still willing to do that today in 2016, I kind of find that encouraging. Again, you hate somebody's home is going up in flames to get that feeling or that effect, but that's basically the case. Okay, flick on. All right, sentimental time, and I'll make this one brief. Photos don't, and everybody has their own shots or family pictures. Photos don't have to be spectacular, dynamic to mean the world to you. And that would mean a lot. All right, let's get together. That was Dad at Baylor Camp. He used to go film all the Falcon football stuff. Sorry, Don. Sorry. You did good. All right, let's move on. Again, just no black and white picture. Took that back in the film days, scanned off of black and white negatives, why it looks a little more than what I would like, but that's my daughter when she was 5 years old, and playing backstage for Mr. Roy Acuff. Now she'll be 36 this December. But of all kids particular, but people a lot of times they ask me what photograph have you ever taken that means the most, and this one's right up there with it for me personally. So, all right, let's move on. Get off of this. Okay, this is just fun. I threw in this last black and white here. Natalie Stovall, Lincoln County Fair. You know, you've heard of guitar players that are shredders. Well, she's a fiddle player that's a shredder. That's bowstring flying through there. I just loaded that on there because I liked it because of the timing of the shot. She's standing on a box with the light coming up. That light's hitting all that loose bowstring and stuff, and she's sawing that sucker. And, well, it's just kind of one of my favorites. And I do lean toward black and white shots on a lot of stuff, me personally. So, okay. All right. Go ahead and flip on. Big shot right there. Again, no smoking, dancing chickens. But this is the first time Lady Falcon Soccer ever won. They won the district, won in the region, advanced in the sub-state, and went to the Final Eight in the state. First time in school history last year. And there's times I kind of hook up with the kids, and I'm as proud as their mom and daddy. And these girls have played together since they were knee-high to a grasshopper, and they just kind of affect me that way. Okay, another big moment. Fayetteville High School's Nick Hopkins is the first, and will always be the first, Mr. Basketball to come out of this town. Never been one before. Nick's a great kid. He's got a full ride to Belmont, and he's going to be getting some playing time as a freshman. So, again, not a lot of smoke and dancing chickens with this picture either, but it's a shot to me that's important. All right. Okay. There's few things in Lincoln County, and of course I think of things from an athletic standpoint, so y'all got to kind of give me for that. Falcon football from the start in 1979 has probably impacted this community as much as anything, particularly any single type happening or event. Now, 2 years ago, last year, they added this Falcon Walk where the guys come out, and I just liked it. I liked what it said and what it stood for, just because, you know, Falcon football has been real important to this town for a lot of years. All right. Now here they do have some smoking, dancing chickens. They started using fog machines when they came out on the field. Of course, photographically, I loved that because it gave me a different look. Okay. Perspective about it. Eric Smith, leading receiver, Lincoln County High School. Let me see here. 125 catches for 2,214 yards. Go ahead. I know I need to speed up. Now, this is who he had throwing the ball to him, Evan Pittenger. Pitt threw for 3,297 yards. Leading passer in Lincoln County High School history. He went to Maryville College, played. This last year, he went and played in Europe, playing professional ball, which was really cool, I'm sure. So, okay. All right, sentimental shot here. Coach Lewis Thompson, and I took this was right after Saudi Daisy beat him in his last game he had ever coached, as head coach. Just a solemn moment. I have a lot of respect for the guy, for the time and the years and the dedication he put into it. He's kind of high up there for me, and he always will be, but I just like the look of what he was. I was wondering what was going on through his head while he was sitting there. Man, I have just coached my last football game as a head coach out of how many years? Okay. All right, Fayetteville High School, they're cranking it up. They're in their 5th year playing varsity ball now. They're in a 1A classification, Region 4 1A. Real good fit for them. Schools in that classification are kind of apples for what they've got to work with. So, okay. Just another Tiger shot. I liked it because something different was happening. I ain't never took a picture of nobody throwing a bunch of orange dust up in the air. So that just worked for me. But good excitement, good vibe going on. They do this evidently kind of religiously when they start the second half. Okay. Brandon Moore, number 22 for City. Soon to have 2,000 yards of total offense. He's knocking on 1,000 on the ground. Got about another 500 or 600 in the air and just about as many on punt and kickoff returns. He scored 28 touchdowns, and he's a junior. And that poor guy laying back there in the ground is the way most defenders end up after he does his juking, I'm telling you. Okay. Skylar McDonald, great kid. Skylar has sent me to Murfreesboro to state tournament action more than anybody ever has. She won the state championship as an 8th grader playing up on a varsity level, and we went back 5 more years, and she won 2 of them and was runner-up in 3 of them. So I had to include a shot of her. I like them trips to Murfreesboro. I like to call TWS today and say I need credentials. All right. This is just a comedic shot as far as I'm concerned. I thought y'all would laugh when you saw that. Carrie Brown from Fayetteville High School, jumping. This is the opening tip-off, jumping against 6'8" girl from Columbia Academy. Guess who got the tip? I think it was just one of them kind of things. Okay.
There we go.
Click on. There you go. All right. You missed Peyton. I can't believe you missed
Back
Peyton.
to that. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Here we go.
Never mind.
I'm sorry. Good.
Look who he skipped. Every now and then I get to go up to Knoxville and cover a game and do some stuff, particularly when we had some kids up there involved. Jeff Wilcox was student body president. Of course, Jim Bob was up there playing. I just had to have a picture of Peyton. They're few, far, and in between for an old boy from Lincoln County. All right. Coach Fulmer's last game against you know who. It didn't go the way he wanted. I got a ton of admiration for Coach Fulmer. He's a good guy. The other guy, you can call him Nick Saban. I have heard him called Nick Satan, and I think I've heard him called Nick Savior if you're on the other side of the state line down there. But regardless, the guy wins some football games. So, is that it? I think it is.
That's it. Yeah, it is.
That's it. All right, I'm sorry I got long-winded. Lucy's over there giving me the hurry up, but I appreciate y'all letting me come in and chat and ramble and roam and carry on with you. Anybody got any questions on anything? Come on now, somebody ask me something. I wanna ask you. Do what?
How your mother and father doing?
We're doing okay. Mom's on the backside of her second run with lung cancer. So, but she's making me look bad. At 85, she's healing better from a second go-around of lung cancer than I am from a blown-out Achilles. So go figure. It just happens. Yeah.
I have 2 questions.
Make them easy.
First one is, what got you into photography? And 2, what shot do you think defined you as a photographer when you knew that's what I'm going to do?
That's what I'm going to do. Well, I've always been kind of a visual kind of guy. There was a time when I could write my name. I actually wanted to draw and do some things like that. I've always been some type of visual and sometimes on the kind of sort of creative side, as much as I can be. That basically got me started, just the imagery of it and the interest of it. I knew I was hooked as far as, and I've done other stuff, don't get me wrong, but it just kind of seems like taking pictures, regardless of where I was, has always been one of the constants in my life. Just now it happens to be 80,000 shots a year, you know? So it's a different means. It's just been a constant for me, but the first time I ran my own black and white Tri-X 400 film in the dark room and watched that first contact sheet come up, and it worked. They were in focus. I was cooking with gas. From that time on, that just kind of locked me in. You know, there's aspects of that because of the digital stuff I miss. I do miss dark rooms, but I don't miss them at 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's, if you're running film for people, places, and things. I started with it shooting at kind of a sort of semi-amateur level where people would pay you to do it, was with the music business in Nashville when the Nashville Network started up. Great place to freelance. Ralph Emery Show, Nashville Now, Shotgun Red. They knew me by the first name. And it was good. I have to say it was good. Yes, sir.
You ever catch yourself getting caught up in the moment and miss the shot, like say us?
Oh, if a photographer tells you he ain't never taken a bad picture, he's lying. No, and it's sometimes it's those. I get aggravated when I get it in the frame and my autofocus doesn't do what I want it to do, you know. And cameras now are so much faster than what they used to be, but that happens all the time. You'll know you've got that in your lens, that's framed, and you download it and it's soft or it's out of focus. And it's just because it could be a jump, it could be a blur. It's a lot of why I shoot off a monopod so much, because I'm shooting fast, trying to freeze action, and that monopod's just like a prop on a gun or anything else. It gives you stability. So no, and then I'll go back and look through pictures, and then I'll find that nugget. I might have to zoom in and crop it a little bit or something like that, but that nugget's there sometime if I've got the time to take back and go and look through it. But now I miss, yeah, you can kind of look at it like shooting at a target with kills or misses, and you're going to have a ton of misses. If I tell you that, particularly in low light situations. Now, if you're shooting out in daylight, bright afternoon sun, things like that, you're going to hit on a much higher percentage than you are shooting at night, low light situations, that type of thing. So, all right, Mr. Tam, it's good to see you.
Mighty good to
This
see
is
you.
this is one of my favorite people that walks this earth. I'm telling you. So, thank you very much.